All right, we are live. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this. If you don't mind, as people are rolling in, if you don't mind, tell everyone who you are, what you do, how you do it, and all that good jazz.
Yeah. So obviously you see my name on the screen if you're not just listening, but it's Jerad Graham, and I'm with eXp Commercial now for almost 4 years. I have the title there of advisor, senior vice president, and recently eXp has kind of given a little bit more structure to the titles within eXp Commercial to make sure people know who's who and what their industry level of experience is. I'm also the chairman of the eXp Commercials National Agent Advisory Committee,
Okay.
and I was most recent mentor of the year. So that's been a big part of my time at eXp Commercial. And prior to that, or prior to joining eXp in general, actually, I worked on the development side and still am actively working on my development company, primarily focused on boutique multifamily projects in urban areas. But a lot of my background was large scale commercial mixed use. So I did everything from hotels, multifamily, retail. Biggest names that I worked with were Trader Joe's and Lifetime.
Oh, very cool. Were you in the Lifetime movie?
No.
That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. So, for you, or for anyone, actually for you, what other firms have you been with in terms of commercial, or did you just stick with EXP?
So on the brokerage side, I never joined a different brokerage. So EXP was my first choice, and I actually joined EXP before EXP had EXP Commercial. So I was working at a company called NRI, and it's Nolan Reynolds International, and that's where I did some of those large scale projects, and started that about 10 years ago when I first moved to Miami. And so I was working there and actually got my license because the company was looking to expand its property management division.
Mm.
And I was the only person in the company that was kind of junior enough in the company and also had the education that Florida required, that I didn't have to go do anything extra. I just showed up and took the test.
Right.
Um, COVID threw a little bit of a wrench in that, but I joined eXp because it was a virtual brokerage and I had a different full-time job and I didn't want to have office hours or anything like that. And it
Yeah.
just kind of worked out serendipitously that eXp Commercial ended up starting at the same time that I was looking to kind of make my move.
Gotcha. Okay. And you being the, mentor of the year, in terms of the commercial side, what what would you tell an agent who is maybe has done residential for a minute but is very excited to get into commercial? What are some expectations, or what's those conversations you have up front before, they really start diving into the commercial side?
Definitely talk to one of the eXp Commercial people, right? We're almost, we've got a very similar culture to the eXp Realty where there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of just open information sharing, and the whatever property type you're working on. Like I just saw a woman post in Slack today about having like 400 acres in Arkansas for all kinds of different things. I wouldn't be the right guy for that, right?
Right.
But I could, if she contacted me, I could probably find the right person for her to talk to figure that out.
Right.
And that's really what you want to do, is find someone who ideally is local, but more important than local is having the property type experience that it is that you're dealing with.
Mm.
And I absolutely recommend working with one of those people. And don't say that you're looking for mentoring. Say, hey, I've got a deal. I want to learn on it, but I know you're the expert. Is there a way that you can help integrate me so I can learn along the way?
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so to bring a deal and then just both of you guys work that deal and learn at the same time.
Yeah,
Um
I'm doing one right now. Exactly this situation.
mm,
There's a new eXp Realty agent that got her license and is in Florida, and got a very good lead, a well qualified buyer out of California, but they're looking for $10 million plus hospitality assets. And hospitality in particular, hotels. When we say hospitality and commercial, we're primarily talking hotels, not restaurants or things like that. But she brought it to us and said, hey, I need someone who does hospitality stuff in Florida. And there's only a couple of us that do it or, have the experience to do it. And so I started working with her, and she is really getting after it, and she's been a great partner to work with. So I'm happy to work that type of a thing where I share my information and she does a lot of the legwork. And it's a great relationship to have, working with someone who's bringing a deal, willing to work and willing to learn.
If somebody wanted to get into commercial, what would be one of the first, I guess, categories that they should jump into that's more of the most beginner style of commercial?
I think that it depends on what your personal background is. So I wouldn't say that multifamily is easier than retail or is easier than industrial, right? So if someone is coming in who's been selling houses, single family homes, maybe they started selling to some investors, they're probably going to have an easier switch to go into a multifamily line of business, because they just have that understanding of the way that people live, right? And the way that, at least from a base level, everybody lives in a home, right? Or has probably rented an apartment at some point. So you have a little bit of starting knowledge. But then there's a guy who's been, working in an industrial yard, maybe he's been a business owner. He should go do industrial, right? Or I actually have one mentee right now that he was a franchisee doing like fast casual restaurants. And so now he's going into the retail, triple net, things with a drive through and doing tenant rep, because he's been in their shoes. He's been the tenant.
Right. Okay. I love that. I love that. And then, so what is, I'm looking to get into commercial. I guess I'm going to look at my background and see what works best. And what are some of the things I have to look for in terms of EXP, of splits, fees, everything that might jump into me being active on the commercial side?
So it's structured very similarly to EXP Realty in terms of you can join a team or a group. We have on the commercial side, we call them groups instead of teams, but very similar concept where you're going to be matched up with, or you pick who it is that you want to work with that are going to have those splits that come along with it. And if you're coming in for your first time with EXP Commercial, they have a structured mentoring program, right? And that's the whole mentoring division. Or you can exempt yourself out of the mentoring program by joining one of the groups. And so I have my group that's called J3. And so instead of just doing mentoring, I have people join my group. There are other people that do both, or if you don't know or you're unsure, you can just talk to the EXP Commercials corporate division. And after you go through the academy, because we have a good training program set up as well, once you go through that training program, when you get far enough along, or if you have a live deal right away, the corporate team is going to say, hey, here's a list of people that you should contact and get to know them and see if it's a good fit, right? Because ultimately you need to be working with these people for some extended period of time. Could be several months, or it could be even a year for you to get through that, training and mentoring program. So you want to make sure that it's a good fit, because commercial deals aren't quick, right? Most people don't get their first deal closed for at least 6 months. So you want to be ready to make that type of a commitment when you're coming into commercial without having a real basis of deals and deal flow right off the bat.
Right. And so what are the splits and fees with EXP?
So it's $20,000 is the cap annually. And then if you're joining a group, you can make an election if you want to have that cut to 10, but that comes with a few like caveats. I think you can't icon. I don't know all the exact details, but you can't icon, but you're going to have a $10,000 cap instead of a $20,000 cap. And then the splits on a team, it's open, right? It's between you and what your team leader and team structure are that
Right.
go separately with that. And if you're just strictly in the mentoring program, it's 70-30 for your first 6 deals, right? Because like I said, there's a lot of variability that comes with the commercial deals. So if you do one tenant rep on a retail and then you do a,
Mm.
10 unit multifamily building, your experience is going to be wildly different. And they want to make sure that you're really ready to go do deals on your own. And so it's pretty recently they switched it from 3 deals to 6.
Oh, really? Okay. What is the
Mhm.
average sales price that maybe you know, maybe you don't, of all of commercial? So that way somebody could do some quick math and see, average, what would it look like to cap at 20?
So I definitely don't know like the offhand all commercial deals, but I like to use $1 million just to make it
Okay.
easy. And so if you use $1 million at 3% commission, it's a $30,000 commission. So you do 4 deals, and you're going to be capping, right? So
Right.
you got $120,000 of GCI or gross commission income just from 4 deals.
Right. And 2 deals if you join a group.
2 deals if you join a group, right?
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And so what are some of the benefits I would get if I decided to go to EXP commercial that with that, not discussing the groups yet, but just EXP, what are some of those benefits I would get? And I'm leaving another firm, let's say, and they
Yeah.
do commercial, I do commercial. What am I getting if I move over to EXP?
Well, this is actually one of the cool things about being on the agent advisory committee, or I think it's called council, but being part of the AAC is we've gotten, because we're a really agent driven community, we've gotten EXP over the last couple of years really guided in the direction of providing even better tools than we had right off the bat. So recently we got CoStar, which is kind of the gold standard for data and listings. You can also get depending on the timing and how it works out, uh, groups like Crexy, which is another listing platform, will sometimes give you a discount. It's not like uh, a marketed thing with EXP, but sometimes you can get it just because of the size of EXP. It's
Mm.
a one-off basis. And then we have our marketing platform is Build Out. So Build Out has templated OMs that you can use and listing flyers and things like that. And so
What's
it's
that
got all the
OM for anyone who's listening?
sorry, offering memorandum.
Got
So
it.
that's your marketing materials. So all your marketing materials, you basically plug in the numbers. It's like fill in the blank, and you know,
Mm.
attach your pictures to it. And that even will do the math for you, right? So
Oh,
if you need
wow.
to calculate what the returns are, if you put in the property performance, it'll spit out what some of the returns are for you. So it makes it really easy to get started without having a full back office marketing team. You have all these tools, and then even beyond that, you have now Canva, right? So all of the same Canva Pro things that EXP negotiated for realty, we get the benefit of that on commercial. So I think that's one of the main things about EXP commercial is that we get to have the leverage that EXP realty brings to the table by having so many agents and the purchasing power. And EXP commercial can leverage that. And then also the deal flow, right? The Like I was talking about before, the open information sharing between EXP Realty and EXP Commercial, I think is one of the key benefits, because a lot of the realty agents, they're busy making their money doing residential sales. They're just going to send it over to EXP Commercial, and
Mhm.
it's like free leads, right? I mean, you should be paying your referral fees, but
Right.
but you are getting leads that you don't necessarily have to actively work for.
How many commercial agents are with EXP roundabout number? Do you know?
We were a little under 1,000 last time that I
Okay.
like checked the real number. I think it was maybe 750 or so. But we've
Okay.
been adding. So this last year, there's been not just a focus on agent growth count, but quality of agents and
Mhm.
production, right? So we've been getting much higher level agents that are doing bigger and bigger deals. And so
Right.
the caliber of agents that are coming in, has increased. And so our monthly fees went up because we got CoStar, but that's really driven the agent count has really stayed consistent with the agent count, but the quality has really increased over the last year.
Gotcha. And then would you say a little over that 700, is it like an 80-20 rule? You really see like 20% of those agents who are really active, and maybe, 80-ish% who are just doing here and there deals?
I think that it's probably less than 80-20. So I would say like maybe 30-40% of the agents are doing deals a little bit more actively, partly
Okay.
because we have a higher fee. And so
Right,
that
right.
that higher fee drives more activity, right? Because there's a bigger
Yeah.
incentive for you to go out and really be active in doing deals.
Yeah. There's that quote, when you pay attention. Um,
Yeah.
so, if where was I gonna go with that? Oh yeah, and what I mean by what I was trying to like kind of quickly break down the math is that there will be more leads for somebody who is very serious about coming into the commercial side, because there's not almost 90,000 agents like on the commercials or the residential side. It's much lower. So as
Mhm.
leads come in and you got 90,000 agents who aren't necessarily maybe wanting to deal with commercial, could pass it to you guys. um it's interesting to think about.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely lower competition for the deals that are out there. And this a little bit of this goes back to the specialization into
Right.
retail
Oh yeah,
or
true.
multifamily, because not everybody like I tell my mentees for the most part, don't mess with hospitality, because that one in particular, you asked which ones are the easiest.
Yeah.
Hospitality, I think, is the most difficult because it has all of the characteristics of a real operating business that you have to worry about, as opposed to like a triple net lease deal, which means that the tenant moves in, tenant pays for taxes, insurance, maintenance. Like it's very, very much hands off type of a business. And so you're really
Right.
just, as an agent, running the numbers on that side. And the hospitality, you have to do like full business evaluations at a much deeper level.
Right. So even less competition if that was something you dived
It-
into.
yeah. So if the hospitality is going to be a significantly less competition for especially in EXP commercial, like I said, there's literally a handful of agents, even out of the 700, that are actively pursuing hospitality.
And do you have to be hyper local for something like that? I mean, could you handle a deal that's across state
No,
lines?
that's again going to one of the benefits of EXP commercial is that we have the ability to go across state lines. There are certain rules about each state has a little bit different nuance to it. So the like Florida is a turf state, which means that someone who's in a different state can't do a deal in Florida. You have to refer it to a Florida agent. But the reverse isn't necessarily true. If I wanted to work on a deal, I haven't looked this up, but Georgia, for example, if I had a client that was based here in Miami, was looking at a hotel in Georgia, I could probably work that deal. I would
Mm,
just have to talk to the state broker in Georgia and make sure that I was doing everything correctly. And so
right.
I'm not excluded by the brokerage itself, which tends to be the case at most other brokerages. And
Right.
so you can take, and the commercial clients are much more mobile between states as well. And so it just makes sense that you should be able to do those types of things.
Gotcha. I know we talked a little bit about the value of what EXP is. Now, what would be some of the added value of joining a group?
So with a group, and this is specifically why I set my group up, is because I think commercial is best handled as a team. And
Mm,
partly because you have the specialization aspect to it, and even even beyond the specialization of the property type, so multifamily, retail, industrial, et cetera, you have skill sets, right? Because you're looking at investments and you're worried about the types of loans that there are, and there might be legal aspects to the deal that are a little bit more complicated. And so depending on, again, what your background is, what your skill sets are, you might want to find a team that has complementary skill sets or can, assist you with a more urgent type of a deal. So the way that I have it set up, I have a guy on my team. His name's Joe Lilly, and I hired him for my development company initially, but then he got his license with eXp Commercial, and now he's helping everybody on the team underwrite their deals. So he's got his master's in real estate development, and he is very good in Excel, right? So he learned stuff in school, he learned stuff on the development side, and now he's running a bunch of deals. And he's really complementary to the skill sets that some of the agents have that are really people oriented. So they go out and get the deals, they interact with the clients, they negotiate things, and then they just send us the info. And Joe and I will look through it, help them underwrite it, and then we send it off to our marketing people who are going to help put together the graphics, right? And this gives the opportunity to those agents to go do more deals. And so the splits that there are, again, it's going to be team by team, and how do you really work on that? But I think finding a team that has the different skill sets and can provide different types of capabilities to enhance what your best skills are, I think that's really the main driver for it.
Right. I love that, man. Where was that? Oh, there was something with I know I've talked about this years and years ago, and people have told me this as well, is that usually you could see where luxury is starting to get hit, and then commercial, and then residential. Is kind of like this trickle down of when's residential going to shift and what's the markets look like. It's been a little weird these last few years, a little wonky. How is it for you guys? And would you agree that looking at other as a whole, not maybe very specific to a location, but looking at those indicators as commercial and other deals, that it might trickle down into residential a little bit later?
We definitely are looking at data all the time. I think if you are really serious about being a commercial agent, you need to be, watching the Fed and the way that the interest rates are moving, and and even beyond that, what are the banks doing with their spreads, right? So the Fed sets a rate, and then the banks will put whatever their profit margin is on top of that. And so you're looking at those types of things, and then you can also look at economic data across different types of properties, and you're going to look at different things. So everybody has talked about the way that the office market works, right? Office has been the thing that has been in the most trouble since COVID.
Yeah.
And it still has largely not recovered in a lot of places, but it's very locally dependent. We've been in South Florida very insulated from things. And then you can go look at other markets and they're still taking a hit. And there's also like supply and demand things that happen with development. With me being on the development side, I'm looking at an even earlier data set because I'm trying to figure out what needs to be built 5 years from now, right? Because sometimes the development projects can take 4 or 5, 6 years to go through. And so as we talk to, or as we look at that and say, okay, how does this actually flow through and get to the residential market? I think that again is going to be very locally dependent, because you have in Austin, for example, I was recently looking at the data there. Austin has taken a major hit. But here in South Florida, we've got a very divided residential market between the single family homes, old condos, and new condos. And so I don't think that right now it's a linear path, like you were saying, over the last couple of years. Things were easier to predict. And then over the last 5 years, it's really a coin flip depending on what market are you in, and are you doing luxury or middle market or a little bit cheaper of properties.
Yeah. Again, hyper local. If somebody was interested in getting a commercial, is it a good time to jump into commercial?
I think that it's always better to do it sooner, because it is a long cycle time. like I was saying about development, it could be 4 or 5 years. If you're looking at even smaller developments, 2 years. If you're looking at even just selling a multifamily building, it could be 3, 6, 9 months or a year. And so on a deal by deal basis, the earlier you get started, the sooner you can get paid, right? That's just kind of common sense. But
Yep.
then beyond that, you want to establish your network, because the commercial agents, and this is a big complaint that I hear from people who first come over and join the commercial side, because the idea is that, oh, they're commercial agents, they're very business oriented, people are going to answer their phones. And that is 100% not the case, right?
Mm.
So the problems that you have on the residential side of agents who won't answer your phone calls or call you back, right? Because the list, you think, oh, you're a listing agent, you want to get paid, you want to try to sell this thing, answer your phone. But on commercial, it's no different, right? You still have people that
Yeah.
don't answer the phone. And sometimes when people come into the Miami market in particular, because I have an established network of commercial agents, I can text a friend who can say, hey, can you tell this guy to call me back, right? And you have to have a network to get
Wow.
the attention of the person to get the call back. And so that speaks to the reason that you should start early and start to establish your network, because you want to be trusted even by the other agents to try to do deals.
I love it, man. There is now I'm gonna write this down because I don't want to forget this. But another question I had, well, really for anyone who's listening, which I think this is what started us even getting connected, was on the, obviously we're very heavy resident. Actually, I've never done a commercial deal, so 100% heavy on residential. But we talk to our people about, hey, where do you work? Do you know anybody that's looking to buy or lease commercial property? And we still ask those things when who's listening on the residential side, because you can always pass referral. So I think it's a missed opportunity, and for whatever reason, didn't even think about it. eXp, they brought it up, but it's like you would be happy to run those deals as long as they're qualified, obviously. But that's
Well,
interesting, and I want people to hear that.
yeah, and I think the one of the things with the realty agents is, and the qualification process, that's a big hurdle as well, because the way that it works for us is you don't just go to the bank, get a pre-qualification letter, and then the agent just automatically knows what you're shopping for, right? So there's a little
Right.
bit more of a process that goes on to figure out and try to qualify the people. And a lot of the residential agents, that's one of the first things that I ask when they say they have a residential lead, or a commercial lead coming from the residential side. I say, well, what do you know about them? How long have you known them? Have you verified anything about their business and what their needs are? And most of the time, the answer is no, which I
Right.
would expect, because it's a different process.
Right.
And so I say, let's jump on a call together, residential agent, me, maybe Joe, just so that we can figure out exactly what is the person looking for and how do we qualify them. And I think that process, when we all get on a call together, it helps the residential agent see what it is that goes into it. And a
Right.
lot of the times it's going to help the client or the potential client understand what they're getting into, because
Mhm.
they might have a business idea, but they don't have a business yet, right? And
Right.
so we can, by looking into the real estate side, help guide them on a larger business venture and help them understand, okay, do X, Y, and Z, and then we can start shopping for the real estate.
Yeah, for that residential agent, they could pull out maybe some of those anchor questions that you've asked, make some content around it, make a video about some of the questions that were answered for this specific person who was looking for this specific commercial, whatever. And then that residential agent could use that as leverage for the next business owner. Like, hey, watch this. Let me know what you get out of this. Let me know your
Mhm.
answers. And so they can honestly build a system by just jumping on those calls and listening to you guys, anyways. Uh, what are you seeing? Because as what are you seeing grow the most in commercial, and maybe that investors are paying attention to?
So just quickly on the thing for your idea for the agents.
Yeah.
So I have a list of questions. If anyone reaches out, I can provide them questions so that they can go make their own content around it.
Oh,
No,
cool.
yeah, no questions asked about that. And then
Where would they send those to?
so you can reach me at, so my name is spelled a little bit weird, right? Most people don't spell it Jerad, but
Yeah.
it's Jerad at j3cre.com. So you can just email me there and I can send it. Or if you're already an eXp agent, you can just DM me on Slack. And so Slack, that's another great tool, just for everybody, eXp Realty and commercial.
And you communicate very fast, not like those other agents we were talking about. We were connecting like this very quickly.
Yeah. The
All right.
instant communication is like critical, right?
Yeah. We actually run a 7 days of pain on agents, unfortunately. And even when we're doing appointments with like a listing, we say, hey, most agents don't leave feedback, but we do have a plan. And we're just like for 7 days
Yeah.
trying to get there just to talk to us. So I get it. I apologize. You were going to say something on the investor
Okay.
side.
Yeah. So your question about what are people focused on right now?
Yeah.
Uh, I think again, you can look at specialties and say that multifamily there's been a lot of discussion about multifamily and the syndication groups that have gotten themselves into trouble, or not even necessarily only syndication groups, but a
Yeah.
lot of people took floating rate loans, which means that depending on what the market was doing, so what rate the Fed set, that increased their cost of their mortgages. And then with commercial, we don't have 30-year mortgages in the same way. And so it's not like you can just ride that out and worry about your cash flow. You actually have to refinance. And so you can take a 5 or a 7 or a 10-year loan. And some of these groups got these floating interest rates, and now that's eating up a lot of their cash flow, maybe
Mm.
even required them to put money in. Uh, and then they're in a situation where their property value is down, their mortgage costs are up. And so there's a lot of money that's been put aside by large commercial investors that are looking to scoop those up at a discount. And so there's that aspect to the multifamily side. Definitely the same type of thing is happening on office, but there's still a lot of caution on the office side because of just the unpredictability of what particular submarkets are going to do. Hospitality, I think people have kind of settled in on what the changes have been in people's travel schedules, whether it's business or leisure. And so, and then on the retail has continued to just perform. And so retail's been great for a lot of investors. So I'd say it's a good opportunity for investors across the board, depending on, it's really deal selection. But there is an appetite for all of the different property types right now.
Mm. Okay. Are you seeing, and this is kind of where my mind went when you said office space. Do you think AI is interrupting any of that to where they don't necessarily need the manpower in some of these offices and it's kind of shrinking and people are like, is this going to be a shrinking commodity in the future?
I don't think that it is playing into a shrinking effect any more than it's people not hiring, right? So
Right.
I think that the small businesses they're not hiring people as quickly, or even the larger businesses aren't hiring as many junior people. I actually just saw this stat. I don't remember the exact number, but I read about there were less hires at a junior level over the last like 6 months than what was expected.
Wow.
So there will be, less of that, I think, as AI continues to grow. But on the other side, San Francisco's market's booming. People weren't expecting San Francisco to really come back in the way that it has because the politics didn't shift as much as people would have hoped for them to really have a real estate resurgence. But yeah, I'm actually originally from Northern California, and so I go out there fairly often. And it was a noticeable turnaround, because of that AI boom. So people have
Mm.
realized even the AI workers want to be in the office, in the in the network together, where they're having those casual encounters at a coffee shop where, two guys with a laptop or two people with a laptop, or, you see each other working on something, and then you form a business. And that's really the impetus for it is happening in San Francisco. The same type of thing happens in Miami, some other cities as well.
Wow. Okay. I will say we spent some time in Northern California, and it was the best part of our whole trip. It was absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure you hear that all the time as well.
Yeah. You take it for granted when you grow up in it, right? So a lot of people, they love Napa, Sonoma. As a kid, I used to just be like, oh, can I get rid of these hills, right? I was
It's
just so sick of
gorgeous,
going
man.
up and down over the hills. Yeah.
It was
That's what
beautiful,
you think
man.
when you're 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah. We picked up our long story. We have an RV. It became a rental. We since sold it, but as it was a rental, it got stuck in Oregon. We flew to Oregon to pick it up, and then just kind of tried to escape because it was colder, and we are trying to escape the ice storms and stuff. So we kind of went south.
Mhm.
So we went down all of California, but we started, and then once we hit that part, we were like, "Is this gonna be the best part of the trip?" Like we just started this whole trip, and it was, man. At the end of the day, it was gorgeous out there. What do you guys do in terms of your group? Do you have people that you send residential leads to? Is that more of like a rev share game? Because like I'm trying to flip it. Obviously, I'm not going to run a commercial deal, not right now. Maybe, but not right now. So I would pass
Mhm.
it. What do you do with residential leads? What does that look like for you?
So 100%, I pass them. So
Right.
I referred out last year. I don't remember how many millions of dollars, but it was in the millions of dollars that I referred out last year for residential leads. Because, on the commercial side, we're dealing with the business owners, the entrepreneurs, people like that, or the investors. So we just tend to have a higher dollar value of residential leads that we're sending out.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that from a residential agent perspective, it makes a lot of sense for people to talk to the commercial agents and see what do we have available. Because just like you were saying, when you're talking to the homeowners or your clients, you ask them about commercial. The commercial agents a lot of times aren't thinking about asking about the residential needs, but they should be.
Hmm.
So I think that it's a really good back and forth relationship that we can develop on that thing. And then the other side of it, actually, one of the guys on my team started asking me, well, where's this form for me to do a listing? I've got a good friend that wants to list his house, and he called me, and I said, absolutely, do not take that listing.
Oh man.
Uh, so I was kind of harsh actually when I first responded to him, because I was like in the middle of something and just telling him like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Um, but then I worked through it, after I got a little bit more time, I was able to explain to him why. And the first reason is that we're not on the MLS, right? So we wouldn't be doing a great service especially for a listing, because we don't know it. We don't have the access to the tools that we need. So at a minimum, you have to work with a residential agent to get the listing up. And
Right.
then on top of that, especially as a newer commercial agent, I was telling him, hey, you should be focusing on your commercial deals, and you should be growing your network on that side. You're going to deal with, a whole bunch of things. You're going to learn about a whole bunch of things on the residential side that aren't going to benefit your career. So why would you go through all that brain damage to deal with that when you could get, especially for a friend, right? You want to get your friend the best
Right.
possible service. So just pass that deal.
What did he say?
He passed it. So luckily he took my
Nice.
advice. So,
Nice. Nice. That's a
and
bonus
I'm
point.
sure
The
that
gold
was
star.
yeah, I'm sure that was $1 million plus deal as well, just the area that he's in.
Wow. Wow. So we have a network, and I would love to pass you, if you don't know of anyone in these areas, we have a map, and I'll pass that map to you. About 250 some odd agents. And then you can text me and be like, hey, did they just join yesterday or not?
Mhm.
If you do have somebody in those, because I will say a lot of us are investors, but not large commercial, but at least we understand the mindset in terms of short-term rentals, long-term rentals, midterm rentals, flips,
Mhm.
uh, that type of thing. Uh, what kind of So when we're talking, because I was mentor of the year last year. Um,
Congrats. Yeah.
Thanks. It's so funny because you're mentor of the year, so
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. It just hit me. But one of the things we do is obviously we want them to write down their contacts, the people that they know, as long as they choose that path. We got 3 paths. That's one of them. What kind of network should I be writing down, or do you have like a what is it called, memory jogger sheet that says, entrepreneur, in retail space? Like how would I start writing out my contact list essentially?
So what I did is I imported, and I tell people to try to do this. It usually is a more difficult process, but I could just importing all your contacts from your phone, right? Or going
Okay.
into your Google contacts, right? So Google, if you use Gmail, is actually logging all of the emails that you've sent out. So you can go into the Google Contacts section of Google, and you can find all of your contacts and start to just go through them and add your notes to it. And so that would be for me the easiest starting point, because you're not just trying to duplicate it from memory. You can actually use the technology that's already there for you and use
Right.
that as a starting point. The downside of that is that it can be a little bit overwhelming, because you probably have, a couple thousand people that you've contacted.
Yeah.
Um, but even if you just scroll through that list, and then off to the side, you can do, like you're saying, do a memory jogger, use that full list and say, "Yeah, I remember this person, I remember that person," and then use that shorter list that you've created to then go and start reaching out to them.
Right.
Uh, the guy that I was mentioning that was a franchisee that is now working on the retail side, he went to all of his franchise contacts. Some of them had been promoted, moved companies, and so he's got a couple of deals that he's actually starting already because of that exercise, where he went back to his contact list, stayed with the property type that he knows, and was able to go and sit down and talk to them about what his new opportunities are. And so now he's got opportunities across the state of Florida because of that one meeting.
Wow. That's awesome. And I was gonna say, even for the memory jogger, just like him, if hairdresser, I don't need one, but if
Mhm.
hairdresser, as you're going down that memory jogger, you can still talk to your friend who's a hairdresser and see if you can connect with the owner of that.
Mhm.
So there, you can still use that for that. Is there what type of so we got buyer agency agreements, of course. What kind of so
Mhm.
now I'm thinking, if I did have the friend that reached out to the owner and said, y'all make a connection, what do those agreements look like that she may have signed? Is it different than ours? Is it like a 6-month thing as we're trying to find the deal for you? Does it last longer? What do those agreements look like?
So they are different agreements, but they're very similar. So
Okay.
we have on because we're not with NAR, and we don't have our local associations. We have a separate set of forms that we use. And so EXP, this is one of the things that actually recently has, EXP commercial has gotten even better with, was they've gotten more forms, better forms, easier process for us to do it.
Okay.
And we do have buyer or tenant agreements. And so that one form covers both buyers and tenants, because sometimes someone's looking to open a salon and they think that they're going to be a tenant, but just a really good deal comes up and we can figure out the financing for them. And so instead of being a tenant, they're going to buy. And
Mm,
so that usually goes on one form. And of course, you always want to have an exclusive if you can get it. And so it could be, I wouldn't do one that was shorter than 6 months, unless it was, they've already identified the property and they just need help doing the paperwork. But I
yeah.
would say 6 months, 6 to 12 months is pretty standard.
Yeah. In my mind, it's like a 3-year agreement, because it just might take so long.
Yeah.
What? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the term of the lease is definitely going to extend well beyond that.
Right.
Um, and I guess one of the things that is probably different on the commercial side than the residential side is once they start negotiating with the landlord, that that 6 months or 3 months or whatever the time period is that you set automatically extends until the deal closes. And
Okay.
so you're not as tied down to like that hard cutoff date.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. If people wanted to, because obviously we got EXPCon coming up in Miami, but there's going to be an EXPCon commercial. What is that at the same event? Is that a separate event? Tell us a little bit about that.
So this is the first year that EXP is doing the wholly exclusive commercial day. So the last couple of years we've been integrated just kind of throughout the conference,
Yeah.
and which is nice because we get a little bit of the mixing that we've been talking about as one of the main benefits. But the problem was that we had overlapping event times, right? Because EXPCon is just such a big event.
Yeah.
So we have a whole day before the regular EXPCon that is starting. So we have on I believe it's the 20th on the Monday, you get with your regular EXPCon ticket, you get access to EXP Commercial Con.
Okay.
And it's a whole day set aside for the 20th where I'm going to be speaking on a panel with some other guy. And well, I know at least one of the other guys that's on it. And it's about technology and AI and how that affects the commercial groups. And then there's a whole bunch of other panels that are specifically EXP commercial. And so all the EXP commercial agents, all the people that we're inviting, and then some of the residential agents that do commercial deals are probably going to attend as well. There's no extra cost or anything. It's just one ticket and you get access to it.
Man, how important is it for, I want to say, an EXP commercial person to be there, but I really want to just say any commercial person to be there, even outside of EXP,
Mhm.
because holy cannoli, you have a whole room filled with nothing but commercial people, and that just smells like referrals all day. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have 100% gotten real deals from going to EXP's events like this. And even at last EXPCon, there was a woman that I met who was not part of EXP yet that was getting referrals from residential agents because she was there talking about herself doing commercial. And so it just sparks people's memories of, oh yeah, I talked to this guy who had an idea for this business or was expanding or whatever the case may be and was able to refer them out. And so there's a lot of deal flow that happens in the hallways essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try to be there, man. They haven't come out with, unless they did, where's the app and you could slide and what you want to do while you're there. I haven't seen it come through yet, but as long as nothing crazy or if I've got like a commitment, dude, I'd love to be there. I'd love to be there.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a good time. And again, because EXP commercial is a smaller group, we tend to know each other, or we at least like know someone who knows someone in
Right.
EXP commercial. And so we'll do a bunch of kind of out of the conference center events, dinners, things like that, where we're all just kind of meeting up, hanging out, and talking about the deals that we're doing.
Right. Is there, before I let you go, is there a something that you want to bring up on stage at EXPCon that you're kind of holding in your back pocket that maybe you don't want to say, but I kind of want to know that you're seeing something you really want to talk about it in the commercial space that you want to expose on stage that you may want to expose now?
I would. So I do have things I'm working on, right?
Yeah, I bet.
I don't. So one of the big things in EXP commercial, or not even EXP commercial, but the commercial world in general, is that you have to find deals, but then you also have to capitalize them, right? There has to be some source of funds. So how do you get people qualified? How do you get the kind of start to finish working to make a commercial deal actually happen? Because like I said, it's not, you put 20% down and you have a pre-qualification. So I've been working a lot with capital providers and lenders and family offices and some of the networks that are going to help us get more deals done with qualified people. And so that's one of the things that definitely I'm going to be diving into a little bit, is like, how does that whole process work? And I'm putting together a big educational platform essentially that's going to help people understand how do you get from A to Z with a commercial deal and all of those technical things that you don't necessarily need to know how to do, but you need to know that they exist and who to talk to.
Right. Right. And I know we're running up on time, but also, do you guys, and I feel like you do, because I'm seeing it a lot more and a lot more in the last about year and a half, maybe even the last few, where people are essentially buying businesses instead of multifamily, right? They're value adding and then flipping them essentially. Do you help with that? Does the commercial side help with that? What does that look like? Because I know it has a division for that. Is that into commercial?
Yeah, so EXP commercial agents do business brokering. I don't do business brokering. This is one of those things that is not in my
Stay in your
wheelhouse.
lane,
And
right?
yeah, but if I have someone that has an interest, or sometimes I get referrals for it, just because they're looking for an EXP commercial agent who's local, and I have to let them know, hey, I don't do it, but I know someone that does. And so I'm passing those deals through all the time because that is a very active market right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've seen too. Man, I appreciate your time. Reached out to me on Slack and we made it happen. Where can people find you? Just go ahead and throw out, the best place where people can reach out to you if they have any questions or may want to pass a referral to you.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's jaredg.cre. And again, be careful with the name spelling of my name. And then on YouTube, I just launched my channel. Actually, it's a lot of my deals and insights, and it's really just me talking to Joe for the most part and things that we talk about in the office. And that podcast is called Concrete Strategies because we're talking about development and how do you actually make deals happen.
I love the name. You need to come out with some merchandise, man.
Yeah, that'll be a 2026 initiative.
Okay. All right, cool. I will also add that link in the description. So for anybody who is interested in checking that out and subscribing and learning a little bit more, again, man, I really appreciate it. I'll see you at EXPCon this year. If there's anything I could do for you or anything our team could do for you guys, especially on the residential side, just let us know. And again, man, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad I made a new referral partner.
Let's go. Thanks, man. See ya.